Good evening. It is 6:30. Members of council are assembled when you're ready to begin.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of Saugeen Shores Council for April 28th, 2025, and welcome all members and folks joining us in the gallery this evening and everyone watching via the live stream. We're glad everybody's with us. Second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Grace has that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you very much. So the third item is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Any member have one of those that'd like to declare at this time? Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. So we're on to the minutes, and we have the regular council minutes of April 14, 2025. The resolution is the council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 14, 2025 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Mayette and the Vice Deputy Mayor. Is there discussion, question, or comments? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the minutes, 9.1 from that meeting, there's a comment there that says if the concerns are addressed, it has to do with the inflatable splash park idea for the beach, for the Port Algameen beach. It says if concerns are addressed, could be brought forward for consideration. I think a number of council members also highlighted that the other communities that were mentioned in the survey, that they had an RFP process. So, you know, some consideration of a little different kind of approach to inviting those applications or that interest, that was discussed too. So it wasn't just that if the safety concerns and some of the other concerns mentioned were met, that company would be able to come back. I think it was mentioned that there was an RFP process discussed with the other places. So I just wanted to mention that and hope that when we get around to this, that it happens at the right time and that it is, you know, an opportunity for perhaps some other companies interested in activity at the Port Algameen beach of a recreational summer seasonal nature, that maybe they would have a chance to be considered as well. Thank you.
Okay, is there further questions or comments to the minutes? Seeing none, then all in favor? It's carried. Okay. So that moves us down to reports of municipal officers and the committees. And the first one is the 2025 Major Initiatives Division and Capital Highlights Q1 update from the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of 4 presentations I do throughout the year on how the organization is moving forward the town's major initiatives, division highlights, and capital highlights from our business plan. I just want to really recognize that staff have been working really diligently to advance our business plan, which highlights our strategic plan and improve our community. I can't believe all the work that the town staff have done, and I'm going to highlight some of those today for council and the public, but I encourage everyone to read the full report so that they can see the way that we're building the town of Saugeen Shores. In the 2025 business plan, we had 37 major initiatives, which are the big projects that move the community forward, 90 division highlights, which are the initiatives that improve our programs and services, and finally, we had 40 capital highlights, and these are infrastructure, excuse me, and equipment projects. I'm happy to report that at the end of the quarter, we're trending at 38% completion for major initiatives, which is ahead of schedule for Q1. Division highlights, excuse me, division highlights are at 30% completion and capital highlights are at 38%. I just wanted to start the meeting by really recognizing our operations department. They had an extremely busy winter, as all of us can appreciate, and they deserve a huge round of applause for going above and beyond and keeping our town and our roads and sidewalks safe and open this winter. So I really wanted to take a moment to recognize that group because it was a very, very busy season for them. In addition to that work, the expansion of the town's water treatment plant and Southampton wastewater treatment plant is moving ahead with technical reviews and pre-selection processes for contractors underway. Additionally, the department is supporting BASRA in their contract bid with the Circular Materials Ontario, which is going to represent a change in how we do recycling here in the town of Saugeen Shores in 2026. They will be coming forward with a delegation in May so that we can learn more about how that recycling pickup will function in the new year. The terms of reference for the landfill optimization project have been submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Parks and Conservation, and the department is working on a policy for EV charging stations, and also collaborating on a source-separated organics feasibility study. Our fire services has also been really busy, and a shout out to both Station 50 and Station 60. Not only have they been impressive in their daily operations, but recently they attended an active fire where they extracted and saved a woman from a second story of a burning building. We are very grateful for our volunteers and the fire service. In this first quarter, they have achieved an impressive 85% completion on their major initiatives. Fire Services has also made significant strides in revising the Saugeen Shores Nuclear Response Plan, which is almost complete. And additionally, the team is ahead of implementing a system for fire-related compliance issues despite delays in the legislation. Cost recovery for multiple fire inspections has been successfully implemented through changes to our fees and charges bylaw, and the Fire Services has expanded its fire safety education and assistance program. Recruitment to support the expansion is taking place throughout April, and our new recruit program is also underway, outfitting 16 new recruits and expected to be in place by July. Corporate Services has been working with all hands on deck and has really demonstrated the core values of Team Saugeen over this quarter. They're actively reviewing legislative requirements for a countywide licensing regime, engaging with licensees and coordinating with area clerks. The division has also completed the review of the stopgap policy and the council leave policy, with reports that recently came forward to council. Efforts are underway to hire a heritage summer student to conduct research for heritage projects and review archives. Community Services, of course, has been working hard on the Aquatic and Wellness Center construction, and progress is going well. Right now, we're enjoying our reimagined office spaces and council chambers. And in addition, Community Services has been busy throughout the winter launching the town's 12-month ICE pilot. Recreation has completed the public and community engagement for the Aquatic and Wellness Center activation plan, and that will be continuing into Q2. And lastly, the Aquatic and Wellness Center fundraising with the support from the Office of CAO is in its final stages, where we're aiming to secure $3 million in funding and donations from the community. We're in the final stretch of the brick campaign and the donor wall contributions. The public can visit the website at justaddwaternow.ca to purchase a brick or make a donation. As many have noticed along the waterfront, the first phase of the North Shore Park Master Plan is set to be completed by the end of Q2, which will see the playground installation as a major focus of this phase. Detailed design contracts for Helliwell Park and Jubilee Park Phase 1 have been awarded for construction and are scheduled for Q3 and 4 of this year. Design and budget work for the washrooms at Helliwell Park and Lamont Sports Park is underway, and tenders are planned for this next quarter. Community Services has also successfully renewed a long-term lease agreement with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for Chantry Island, which extended it for 5 years. Maintenance and repairs of the Chantry Island Light Station are being discussed. And lastly, for Community Services, the Smart Beach program, which was a partnership that began with the Municipal Innovation Council, is progressing well with sensors and camera systems planned to be installed for Q2. In Development Services, it's had a really successful start to this year, with Phase 1 of High Street reconstruction and Godred Street resurfacing projects both progressing well. The Southampton Drainage South EA, or Environmental Assessment, is gathering background data with its first public information center scheduled for June. And the Asset Management Financial Strategy, or Levels of Service, is advancing with a virtual open house happened on April 9th. The department is also advancing the Cultural Heritage Master Plan recommendations, and a draft will be coming forward soon. I don't want to steal any thunder from our building division, as the manager is here tonight to present a report later on the agenda, but this division has been very busy, and I'll let him highlight what we've been undertaking here at the town of Saugeen Shores by way of building permits. The town continues to work to support housing in our community through an update to the Municipal Housing Allowance Subsidy Agreement that just went forward with Bruce County. And also the town has entered into a memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity and Wilson Developments, and is working towards an agreement to build 30 entry-level townhouse units on town-owned land, which would include 5 units transferred to Habitat to Humanity and 2 units to the town to support affordable housing goals. These divisions are also updating handouts to the website to reflect new building code requirements, digitizing property files, and a study on short-term rental licensing is planned to start in Q2. I would like to highlight one of the key initiatives this past quarter, and it's come up several times as we sit in this chambers, which is the signing of the Friendship Accord with Saugeen First Nations, which was signed January 31st, 2025. This event marked the conclusion of the Community Economic Development Initiative that we participated in with Saugeen First Nation and strengthened our partnership. Moving forward, we will focus on the 4 economic development pillars: tourism and cultural exchange, entrepreneurship and small business development, environmental stewardship, and youth and workforce development. Human Resources is working on implementing the staffing plan for the Aquatic and Wellness Center, with hiring tracking for our opening in Q4. An internal health and safety audit has been completed already this year, and an action plan developed for implementation. The division is also preparing to roll out corporate training through our Harvard Managed Mentors online courses and updating health and safety policies. So as you can note, a lot is happening at the town of Saugeen Shores, and spring is a very busy time for all of us. I'm consistently impressed with the efforts of our staff, both seasonal and full-time employees, and I just want to conclude with a big thank you to everyone who helped us navigate through the extra busy months of January through April this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is a resolution that council received the 2025 Major Initiatives, Division and Capital Highlights Q1 Update Report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Davinsky. Discussion? The Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you. And through you, a couple things, and then I'll see if there are questions from other people too. One of the items in the capital highlights talked about a civic square and rain garden being constructed at the main entrance to the Plex. And I'm assuming that that's the northwest, sort of behind us. I realize people maybe watching don't know that. I wanted to ask a question. There's going to be 2 main entrances, because one side of the building is going to be the Aquatics and Wellness Center, the other side is the Plex. We're going to keep 2 names on the building.
The CAO.
Thank you for the question. The naming of the building right now hasn't been solidified because we still have naming rights available through the fundraising. But right now, staff are planning that the entire facility would be called the Saugeen Shores Community Complex, and then there would be a wing of it that's the Aquatic and Wellness Center.
I was going to put a plea out for somebody to give us $5, $6, $10 million, and that'd put their name on the building.
We'd be happy to name it the
there's-
Provincial Government Building.
There's never going to be a time when access will be stopped from either direction. So it's somebody coming to the rink could potentially park and come in the Aquatics and Wellness Center entrance and get to the rink in the opposite direction. It doesn't appear from the design, but that's going to happen, right?
Thank you for the question. The building has been designed so that we can close out the different areas if we need to at different times, depending on what staffing is available, because the Aquatic and Wellness Center and the arena will run different hours. But yes, the design is very open and connected between the two.
Okay, thank you for that. Sticking with, I guess, public facilities. There's a comment in, I can't think of whose section it was, but it was about land asset management activity. And it mentioned 7 inquiries re public property. How does that get initiated? Were those people that, or companies or groups that just came to the town? Or do we have a process for that?
Thank you for the question. This is an area of work that we've been trying to standardize, I guess, for lack of better words. So previously, when we had land acquisition, so typically people wanting to acquire or use the town's land, we didn't really have a home for it or a process outlined for it. When we did the restructuring in 2021 and we created some more horsepower in and around asset management, we included land in sort of the description of asset management. So that is in our development services division, and they're working right now to clarify that process so that it's standardized and we know how to come forward to council with those inquiries. We do have a policy framework that outlines how we do it. But we're in-house trying to sort of streamline and make that very clear for all of us. And that allows us to then track how many of those come forward, because previously we wouldn't have had eyes on it with that much clarity.
And one more, and then I'll wait to see what other people have to say. I know that there's a comment in here about bylaw enforcement and the excellent work that happened over the winter in terms of helping out with the snow removal situation. I've had a couple of comments from residents that they've had feedback when they've put in report a concern comments. So that's very good news. The list that was included in our report, though, that suggests bylaw can shift over to some other things. Signs was on the list, and there were a couple of other ones. I would respectfully encourage maybe a little attention to parking issues too. In particular, I wrote down 3, parking in front of a fire hydrant, too close to intersections, and also over sidewalks. I think as we experience some adjustments in parking requirements with, in particular, residential situations, there are a lot of cars finding places to park in different locations than even a couple of years ago's front yards, and stacking on driveways. And whatever we can do to ensure a safe pedestrian path on a sidewalk, which is really for their purpose, that would be good. The fire hydrant thing, also, it happens a lot on my street, Palmerston. There's a fire hydrant across from the funeral home. And most of us know, you're not supposed to park right in front of it. So a little bit of education perhaps in that direction might go a long way too. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davinsky.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you. To the CAO, the road naming policy. I've seen the list of names that are suggested and could be used in the future. But that's not etched in stone, is it? If someone has another name, it could be considered by council rather than just this list only?
The clerk will answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. When say a developer comes forward with a series of names for various roads, there's a certain percentage outlined within the policy that is being requested are from that list. Ultimately, the decision is council's. So if there is a name that comes forward that is not on the list but has a profound significance that council thinks is highly appropriate, then of course that can be considered and adopted by council. You can go completely off book as well, and council can make that decision. But the policy is a guiding document to provide those concerns that some of the names did not hold meaning necessarily for this community. And that was the intention of the policy.
Okay, thank you for that. So Davinsky Drive still has a shot.
All in favor?
It can be right beside Middle Holtz Lane.
Anyway, I wanted to check on that, and I wanted to echo the remarks of the CAO about the winter operations plan. It was exceptional. Certainly in many ways, we had a terrible winter, And yet, I don't recall our roads being blocked. I mean, we were told to stay off them, but I don't recall them being blocked. So somebody was out there doing the job, and it was our staff. And you had asked for a round of applause, and now I'm going to demand one. A round of applause. Take that back, Matt, to the gang, please. Thank you.
Okay, further questions or comments on this from members? Councillor Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I'd just like to say I really appreciate the layout of this report. It's good, concise. It's helpful for us to answer questions from constituents, and now that it's public as well, constituents have easy access to it as well. We're always getting questions about when's my road getting done or how long is that project going to take. So this is good, and I appreciate the work goes into it. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comments from members? I'll make one comment myself. I just wondered, and I agree with Councillor Mayette's comments, and we say this every time. This is this work when you combine our business plan, our strategic plan and business plans, and then our annual reports and this quarterly reporting. When you put all that together, it creates a very transparent view of the whole operation on an ongoing basis. So it's outstanding work. And I would just, every time we talk about this, encourage people to get on and look at it because it gives people a good sense of what the municipality is up to. Just one question though, under the development services major initiatives update, the housing subsidy, which is at 0% and not started, it's shown as, and I just wonder why that is. Like we've been in this deal now for 2 years. We added $75,000. Why is it that that's not just rolled out immediately once approved? The Director of Development Services. Sorry, I guess I have to recognize you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Mr. Mayor. That work is, because we've been doing it for a few years now, it's a fairly quick turnaround to prepare that agreement and finalize it with the county. And so there isn't much lead time into it, which is why it's 0%, but I'm happy to report that we'll be bringing that next month for approval.
So maybe I'm just unclear then. So we need to do a new deal every time we change that dollar value?
That's what we, through you, to you, Mr. Mayor, that's what we've been doing because the dollar amount has changed and then the dates changed, but we're going to be looking at, one of the things we did this year is we restructured the design of that agreement so that it will run because there's been a 9-year commitment to staying at the $225,000 subsidy. So our hope is that if that's approved, then we will not have to do this every year.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So over to the Deputy Mayor then.
Thank you. 2 other areas, playgrounds and parks are mentioned in a few different spots. And so just a couple of questions. One of them, I believe, is in the CAO's category. There was a comment there about the parkland north of the river, and it sort of suggests that it was closed off. Should we expect something, within the next year or 2 associated with creating something north of the river?
Thank you for the question. And through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a report to council in December that laid out some options with regards to the town acquiring parkland north of the river, and those options were not advanced. So that's why it shows that item is complete.
Thank you. There are also some other places where playgrounds are talked about. I hope that before the parks manager retires, that he gets the Long Dock Park plan, the playground rejuvenation there in place, that's mentioned. There's also some shifting of funds from some playgrounds to cover off some other areas. I just wanted to mention that recently I saw something about a donation by Port Elgin Rotary to the Northport School Playground Fund. And it was mentioned in the article that the cost of a playground was $100,000, and that Rotary was contributing. I can't remember the amount, but it was significant towards that. I saw an article also recently that was of an Owen Sound school striking an agreement with the city and the Blue Water Board of Education associated with public use of playground space at that school. Now, they had pickleball courts there too, and they also had some nets up. But certainly in some areas like Northport, there's not a playground area around there, and there's an awful lot of new housing going in there with some high rises. If at any chance we have an opportunity to explore reciprocal use agreement, the Blue Water Board did recently just do one with a school in Owen Sound that the city of Owen Sound was involved in it too. And I think that that might be a nice opportunity, I guess, to get some playground stuff available in areas where we don't have a lot of equipment for kids. So I'll just leave that thought there. And it was good to see playgrounds mentioned in a number of spots. I did want to ask a question though. The CCV is mentioned, and it talks about the town's ongoing involvement with that project. Certainly back a couple months ago, we received some revised timelines, and the timelines are, I know that they've started to do a little more diligent work there in the last couple of weeks, but the timeline milestones mentioned in the document we received, some have been missed. So I'm just curious, at some point, what happens if there's a significant miss in a milestone moment in the timeline? Because for example, there was site works are supposed to be done February the 17th, and by April the 7th or the 21st, concrete, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing was supposed to be done on the north building. The south building, all that stuff with the exception of electrical was supposed to have been done by now too. And so like when do we get to a point where we will hear about a milestone being missed? Like what is that target?
CAO.
Thank you for the question. I didn't have it beforehand, so I don't have the schedule in front of me in order to respond, but the milestone schedule that I attached on the February 24th meeting date was my reading of the detailed Gantt charts that were provided by the developer, and it was the start of those periods. It wasn't a milestone to be missed. It was a start of that work. So for example, you mentioned electrical. There's no development, there's no building started yet, so electrical would not be completed by this point in time. So it's the start of the work that they're doing underground and in order to access utilities. So again, that milestone schedule I provided was the start of the work, and no milestones have been missed at this point.
Thank you for that. It doesn't show up anywhere, but we at our last meeting or 2 meetings ago, maybe, we had a report about the strong mayor situation, and I don't know if it doesn't show up in this highlights, but certainly should we anticipate a report about that sometime soon? Because it wouldn't be in the business plan, but it's something, will it be Q2, Q3?
CAO.
Thank you for the question. So the report that I provided was just at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. So this report would have been done at this point in time. So what we do with things that arise throughout the year is that we do highlight them for council as new initiatives or new projects or new things that have come up that we didn't anticipate. So quarterly, there's a list that gets added of things. So I think we're all waiting to see what the province is going to do on May 1st. We're hopeful that they will have listened to the letter that the mayor provided, which is that town of Saugeen Shores is opposed to having strong mayors implemented here. And if that's the case and they do listen, then we would not have any further work to do. If it's the opposite of what we wish, then we will have reports back to council on what next steps look like.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments before we consider the resolution? Seeing none then, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. All right, so now we're on to item 9.2, which is a no services agreement and easements for Miramichi Shores Land Developments Limited and the manager of planning and development.
Thank you, Mayor Charbonneau. I don't have much to add. I guess I want to just highlight the sort of critical components of this agreement and this report is number one, we want to adjust and enhance access to the existing trail system, which is I think it's the part that aligns with the extension of essentially Shady Lane to the east, and in return would grant permanent access to Block 18, which is sort of the larger block that's there to the south. But it has to be done through an agreement, and that's what's in front of you today. Thank you.
Thank you. So the resolution is the council adopt bylaw 42, 2025, a bylaw to authorize a no demand for services agreement and easements with Miramichi Shores Development Limited, and the council adopt bylaw 43-2025, a bylaw to restrict access pursuant to section 35 of the Municipal Act. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by the Vice Deputy Mayor. Discussion. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions, I guess, for Jay. In your report, under the heading Block 18 Plan 3M 268, it says the no demand for services agreement includes, but is not limited to, and one of the bullet points reads, access is non-exclusive. Could you explain what you mean by that, please?
Yes, I mean, in this case, we want to make sure that access over that part of Shady Lane is not exclusive only to the owner of Block 18. In other words, it's still a publicly owned road. We want to allow access to Shady Lane. It's just granting special access to get to Block 18. That's all.
Thank you. I think the bylaw does include a provision to restrict the general public's access over Part 2. Is that,
Yes.
how does that reconcile? Or
Well,
maybe
let
I'm
me-
not.
No, I'm happy to address. Let me get the drawings. Apologies. I should have clicked this to get ready. Oh, here it is. And yes, you're right. Correct. Block 2 is the particular access over to get to Block 18, but I think the overall is just not exclusive to the overall Shady Lane. Apologies for not clarifying that.
Sorry, just one more question, and that is, so one of the contingencies in the report is talking about, says if the town decides to assume as a public highway in the future, that's an option maybe that might happen. Would we have to reimburse Miramichi for any of the improvements that they make?
Mayor Charbonneau, I don't think that's the expectation. But I can't say with 100% certainty. I think that would be something to consider at that time if we'd ever go that way.
Okay. Further comments? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and I appreciate Councillor Grace asking that question. I had the same comment. So I think what I heard you say, Jay, is that the access is non-exclusive on Part 1, which is the part that goes to the trail, and the bylaw limits access on Part 2. Is that? I think that's what you said, correct?
I think that's what I was trying to clarify, but if you would like me to clarify, finalize, dig any deeper, I can do that right now. So.
Well, to me, they said different things too. So maybe just a good look at that. Can I just ask, is the gravel driveway that's showing in the drawing on Part 1, is it going to be removed?
Yes, we have contacted the person that's using that gravel driveway, and it's intended to not be used in the future.
And a question, it's $1. This one is $1. We have another item on tonight's agenda where it's $2. How do we determine the $2? Is that something that's in some sort of legislation? It's just is what it is? Okay, thank you.
The solicitor
have
can
an
probably
answer.
speak to that. We'll ask the solicitor to give us that answer.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. To answer the question, the $1, $2, in terms of an agreement, that's considered nominal consideration. So anything under $10, normally it's just a reference to it. And then you'll see that as well, agreements include provisions that say that there's an exchange or consideration, such as the exchange of covenants or obligations of the parties that form part of the consideration to form a binding contract between the parties.
The Deputy Mayor.
I must say it's nice to have a lawyer in the room. I do not recall ever seeing anything called a no demand for services agreement. So it's a learning experience. And so thank you for that, Tammy.
Thank you. Councillor Halpin?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Just, it's just good to see our trail system expanded, protected, and guaranteed for future use and generations. So thank you very much for everyone making that happen. I consider those trails a real treasure of Saugeen Shores. So I appreciate the work on this by everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Further comments? Deputy Mayor?
There is something in the agreement about municipal staff having access related to signage. Will the access to the trail be signed out so that it's obvious this is a way in? Like as things get, you know, sort of reconfigured at the entrance, we'll make sure that people understand. Thank you.
The answer was yes from the CIO. Are there further questions or comments? If not, then I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're on to 9.3, which is a 2025 budget amendment and fund transfer for Town Line Road and Peel Street, and we'll turn that over to the Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Mayor. This report and the recommendations in it arise from two things that changed since the budget was approved in the fall. One is that we received the final geotechnical investigation and did field follow-up inspections of some certain sections of Town Line Road, which led to a recommendation that that work be done sooner than later. And so an estimate has been developed to do that work in the amount of $320,000, which we would split 50-50 with the town of Kincardine. And so this report is about seeking approval for $160,000 to and adding that to the business plan as a project for this year. And we have other projects that are under budget that we can transfer that money, and that's what that recommendation is about, to make that $160,000 happen and proceed with that work this summer. The second change is the scope of work for the Peel Street project needed to change to provide more extensive drainage infrastructure than was assumed when the original estimate was prepared. And so that's led to a need for an additional $370,000. And that can come from a combination of not having to do the concession 14 work because that will be part of the landfill project, and also additional savings from another project transferred in to fund that. So that's what we're seeking approval for this evening.
Thank you. So there is a resolution. The council approve an amendment to the 2025 capital budget to include Town Line Road repairs and remove concession 14. The council approve $160,000 in additional funding for the Town Line Road repairs project, funded by transfers from 320-86382 Lennon Street to Mill Street, Lennon Street, Mill to Green, and 320-86828 Bricker Street, Lloyd to Maple projects. And the council approved $370,000 in additional funding for the Peel Street, Knowles to Lambert project, funded by transfers from 320-86810 concession 14 resurfacing and 320-86382 Lennon Street, Mill to Green projects. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Mayette, seconded by Councillor Halpin. Questions or comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, for the Peel Street changes, it's basically, it's for underground drainage infiltration gallery. Will there be a significant change in terms of the what residents see or experience on the surface?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there wouldn't be a change from the original design in terms of the surface. I think what we will see is an improvement overall in the drainage situation.
Okay, further questions or comments from members? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right, so now we're on to 9.4, which is to do with a sale of part of Eckford Road allowance at 536 Eckford Avenue, and we'll turn that over to the director again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is essentially fulfilling an intended pathway towards selling a piece of the Eckford Avenue road allowance to an adjoining landowner. So this approach was started by previous council, and this is a next step in terms of preparing the necessary approvals to close up and sell that part of the Eckford Avenue right of way. The only thing I would mention is that it's referred to as a shore road, but it's a ribbon of land beside Eckford Avenue on the land side of the houses, not the lake side.
Okay, thank you. So there is a resolution that council direct a bylaw be prepared to close and sell the unopened section of Eckford Avenue located adjacent to 536 Eckford Avenue. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Grace. Is there questions or comments? The deputy mayor.
Thank you. And I'm very supportive of this. And, there's not very many little pieces of land left along that stretch of Eckford that haven't been transferred. Maybe there's a campaign there to reach out to the property owners who are still left and remind them that this is an option. So I'm very supportive of this. I just wanted to ask a couple questions and make a comment. Back in 2019, I believe the report that Linda White, the clerk at the time, would have made to council suggested that they had made a deposit, the property owners, I'm assuming it's the same property owners, but they had made a deposit. Was that deposit ever returned to them? Or is that something that's kind of outstanding still?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is still outstanding and would be concluded when we've finished the sale.
Thank you for that. And another question is, once this transfer happens, what is the width of the road allowance that would still be there on the side of Eckford? It's pretty slim. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't think I know which part you're referring to.
When we sell off this parcel, does the road abut the new property line, or is there still a sliver of land there between where their property would begin and where the actual traveled portion of the road is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the road and this property will abut each other.
And my comment would be, in the report, it suggests that, and again, I'm supportive of the process and the application here, and this makes perfect sense. The comment is made about how the size of the land is not usable for anything else. It's a 50-foot by 26-foot piece of land. We've been enabling smaller and smaller lots, and we have lots that are narrower than 26 feet. 50 feet is probably a stretch still for the depth, but we're getting closer to that, just as a comment. This makes good sense, though. And again, I think, we should reach out to the other property owners and remind them that this is an option, because if I own property there and $3,900 could snag a little section to add to my holdings, I think I would take advantage of that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. On the staff report where it says location of map of 536 Eckford Avenue, it does say note the property shown in orange, the property boundary is approximate, but the house is fitting on the lot. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. There's a mismatch between the photo and the parcels.
That's what I assume. Thank you so much.
Okay, further questions or comments from members? You've heard the resolution. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, so now we're on to 9.5, proposed cap for lottery license fees, and the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. Just as a brief summary, in 2024, a fee review was undertaken by the town that included, among other things, lottery licensing fees. The lottery fees were adopted in the 2025 fees and charges bylaw and implemented beginning January 1st, 2025. Following this implementation, feedback was received that indicated some local charities and not-for-profit organizations found the increase in fees to be somewhat burdensome. Given that the goal of licensing fees is to recoup the administrative operating costs of the town directly associated with lottery licensing, the idea of a cap was explored while still ensuring that the administrative and operating costs were still being recovered for the most part. A proposed cap of $450 is included in the report. An amending bylaw is prepared for council consideration. This would be applied to raffles, to bingo, as well as bazaar raffle licenses. And I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is a resolution, the council adopt bylaw 44-2025, a bylaw to amend bylaw 96-2024 to establish fees and charges. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Stack. The seconder, Councillor Mayette. I might just speak to this off the top. I had initiated this, as I heard, following the implementation of the new fees and charges bylaw, and then as a couple of our larger lottery, charitable lottery operators, namely the Legion and the Lions Club, started to apply for licenses this year, they were hit with bills that were substantially higher than what they had become used to, and that was concerning to them, and they were advising me that they couldn't really, run their lotteries like Lions TV Bingo and that kind of thing without at those rates. So I really appreciate the work, honestly, that the clerk has done to bring this back and revisit it so that we can attempt to contain those costs a little bit. The only thing excuse me, the only question I have, I guess, is that $450. And maybe the clerk can just address this for me. How if we were to charge up $450, for example, to Lions TV Bingo, how would that compare to what they paid us in 2024?
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. It is still a larger increase, certainly. Let me see here. Sorry, one moment. I have it written down in here. Sorry. So in the previous fees and charges bylaw, bingo licenses were $63.30. So it is still an increase, certainly, compared to what they were paying before. However, for these sorts of bingo licenses and lottery licenses in general, there is a fair amount of work that is required. There is no lottery license that really only takes less than an hour minimum. So charging the $63, yes, that certainly covered the 1 hour. But a raffle of $12.60 really wasn't covering the work that was being put into it. These large bingos require several hours of work, which is why a cap of $450, although it is still an increase, seems proportional to the amount of work that is being put in.
And I appreciate that. I guess my only question, it's really more a question for council than for staff, so I'll put it to council. The question ought our goal here be cost recovery, full cost recovery, or should our goal be establishing some sort of reasonable fee, but perhaps not, but also acknowledging the value of the money that's raised through these raffles to causes across the community. From $63 last year to $450 this year is a big increase. It's a really big hit on, and I find it concerning. This was council made this decision, and so I certainly supported it at the time. So it's like this isn't a criticism of anything staff has done. Staffs have implemented council's direction here, and so I ask council, should we consider something this year, something lower than $450, perhaps an increase that, I don't know, we could even, from $63, you could even make a 20% or a 25% increase, or even a 50% increase on $63, go to $90. I think that would be more sense, work our way toward this number, but I don't think we need to go here right this year. I worry that if we implement this cap, we're just going to be right back with complaints from all these folks saying it's too high, and I would rather just come up with something that's a little more reasonable as compared to last year. I wanted to make those comments up front, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. I'll start with the deputy mayor.
Thank you. A question for the clerk. Lions TV bingo, do they pay every time they have a bingo, or is it a standard fee for the whole cycle?
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So the way that a lottery license fee is calculated, it's based on the total prize value. So they have a prize that they have set as the maximum that they're going to be distributing out through the course of the bingo. And then the fee is calculated based on that. That is the same for bingo, for raffle, for any license or any form of lottery licensing. So it is based on that. They could end up with prizes that are lower, but they will never be higher. Okay.
Okay, I'm still not understanding. So if the fee fluctuates depending on the prize bundle, how can you say it's $63? And is it $63 potentially every week that they have a bingo? Or do they pay, because TV bingo, quite frankly, it's a community of people, and it brings in folks from Paisley, and people can buy tickets outside of Saugeen Shores, and it's pretty well subscribed to. And when it doesn't happen, you hear about, or when there's problems with the feedback, I think the Lions Club gets a lot of instant reaction to that too. So I'm just curious, over the, let's say if they have 10 bingos, are they paying like an amount each time? So because is that number bigger than the 450 or less than the 450?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So my apologies for not providing the clarity on this. So generally speaking, for the Lions Media Bingo, they apply for 6 months at a time. So previous to this year, they were paying $63 for 6 months worth of bingos. So this year they would be paying 3% of the total prize value, again, for 6 months worth of bingo prizes. And that's the way that all lotteries are. It is based on what they come in with on their application. So if you have a 50-50 and their maximum prize is going to be $500, it is 3% of that $500.
Okay, so maybe Councillor Halpin next, and then I'll come to Councillor Grace and then the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the fact that it's difficult for staff when we give them instructions and they do it, and then we say, hey, what are you guys doing? So I'm sorry that happens. But I guess my concern is it's hard to replace the good work that Rotary and these organizations do. All right. And then, so that would be my biggest concern, is that we are supporting them and the good work that they do. And we often are asked to make gifts in kind to these groups of using facilities and everything like that. And if we're losing a little bit of money over registering their lotteries, I personally wouldn't lose any sleep over that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grace, and then Vice Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should be going for cost recovery, since this is the profits for this are going to be going to fine community service work. If our clerk can figure out what it takes to cover our costs, and we charge that. If that's not too hard to do, that would be my recommendation.
Do you have any comment to that, the clerk?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So with these in particular, we looked at sort of the generally speaking, the work is being done by the licensing and records clerk for the most part. So we're taking a look at that and sort of what that hourly and the amount of time it is. I will say that it is a imperfect science, if you will. We have certain kinds of lotteries that are way more complex than others. If you were to see the giant binder that I used to work from when we used paper, when we had things like a vacation as prizes, firearms as prizes, it can be a significant amount of work. And so when I say that no lottery license is going to take less than an hour, that is a pretty accurate statement. So the $12.66 that we had at one point in time was nowhere near close to a recoup. Which is why the idea of a percentage was ideal, because the more complex the license is going to be, the higher the prize value is, generally speaking. So what council has the option to do here, of course, we can have a cap, like the mayor is suggesting, that is a little bit smaller, a percentage over what was in the previous year, or some other number that council may feel is fair. Or we can look at a revised percentage that is slightly smaller, say like a 1%, 1.5%. But council may want to, at that point, then look at a minimum, like some other municipalities have. So those are some of the options that council could direct staff to go back with and come back with a revised amending bylaw. Happy to do so, of course. And I do want to say I do enjoy a good bingo as well. So it's not against that at all. I can't do them here in Saugeen Shores. However, I do enjoy a good bingo. So
Okay,
yeah.
thank you, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to say that the $63 to $425 or $450 is a big jump. And I hazard a guess, but I would think that the licenses that are taken out, the fundraising that's done, 100% of the money stays right here in the community. I think we're nickel and diming a little bit with these. That one got by me with that particular fee from 63 to 450. I missed that one, but I could see reducing it. I'm not about cost recovery for this one. I think with the money staying right here, I think going $63, doubling it, 125 for this year. Clerk's staff coming back with more information for next year's budget again. But I'd be in favor of lowering that. I think it's a hefty increase, and as I mentioned a couple of times, the money stays right here in the community. And that's not. I'm not trying to downplay the amount of work involved here. That's not the point at all. I know there's a lot of work associated with licensing, but I think you have to take into consideration what these groups are trying to do. And money all stays here. So I'd be in favor of going from 63 to 125 for this year and then coming back with the report in next year's budget. Take another look at it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I agree with a lot of the conversation, and I think it also escaped me when I read the report earlier that this was such a jump in fees. So if it was necessary, I would make a motion that we refer this back to staff to come back with some numbers that are maybe in the 1.5% with a cap of maybe, as suggested, 125 or 150, that make it more palatable for these groups, and not to be lost on the fact that most of the time, the money they're raising is being put into our, not exclusively, but put back into our community through donations to playgrounds and pools and things like that. So that's what I would move. Thank you.
Okay, let me just, if you don't mind, Councillor, you put a motion, but I'd like just to hear from Councillor Davinsky before I consider it. Is that okay? So, Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree with the motion. I wonder if we should, we can send it back and then review again, but I wonder if we should do it with the intent of putting this into effect next year. So these charities can start to budget for it and have almost a year to budget for what will be still pretty big increases, even to $150 or $125. And leave it as it is for now, for the rest of 2025, and then bring it in for 2026. That's not possible. I don't know.
Can we just, maybe I'll just offer a little clarity. Okay, so right now, council has established a policy where the charge is 3% of the total prize revenue. So that's amounted to a fee, in the over $1,000, right? That this year for for TV bingo, for example, that 3% has led to over $1,000 fee, up from the $63 last year. So now what staff's come forward with here is a suggestion of a cap at $450. So if we leave it as it is, they're going to get charged that $1,000. What I'm suggesting to council is that we should implement a cap now. My preference would be something lower than 450, maybe the 125 that the Vice Deputy Mayor has suggested. We implement that as a cap for 2025. And then maybe we refer the whole matter back to staff for a set of recommendations for 2026 forward for maybe a better system to do this. That would be what I would suggest. But we got to deal with the immediate issue right now in that TV bingo is getting charged over $1,000 in 2025, up from 63, a huge, massive increase. And if we do that, I've been told pretty bluntly from them that they're going to stop doing it. So I think we have to resolve this problem for 2025. My suggestion would be, let's set a cap here tonight. Let's make that cap. My preference would be something less than 450, but let's set it and then refer the matter back to staff as Councillor Mayetta suggested to give us some recommendations for the go forward. My thoughts, the Vice Deputy.
Come from that, if we can cap the 125 this year, I think it's the right thing to do. So I think we should move on.
So so the mover and seconder that 2025
raffle, bingo and raffle lottery license fee be capped at $125, and that staff be directed to return to council with recommendations for 2026 going forward. That's moved by Councillor Mayette. That's seconded by the Vice Deputy Mayor. Is there discussion? The Deputy Mayor.
A couple of people have mentioned about cost recovery. So with the 3% that we put in play, when you talk about the lower license fee of $12.66, that was from before. That was plus whatever we put automatically there, and then so some of those folks could be higher than that, or is that a set fee? The reason why I ask is that it was mentioned by a couple of people about a recovery. So, is there potential for a minimum and a maximum, and then, some fluctuation in the middle with the 3%?
The clerk.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So with a cap, no one will be charged higher than the 125, for example. Someone who had let's say $500 raffle, and I'm so bad at math. Let's say $100. They're going to pay $3. Thank you. A $3 lottery license fee under this particular example. So they're not going to automatically have to pay $125. They're still going to be based on the 3%. But somebody who, like a media bingo, is not going to pay more than the $125 is what is being proposed at this time.
Well, I'm supportive of definitely the lowering of the maximum cap, but I think there's when it goes back to staff, I think there's a discussion about the other end too, because certainly staff time is valuable, and we don't need to be onerous and greedy or anything like that. But a little bit of a reality check there too would be helpful for us to have as well. But I'm supportive of what the Vice Deputy Mayor and Councillor Mayette have said.
Thank you. Councillor Davinsky.
It's through you, Mr. Mayor. We're fine. I got the answers I need. Thank you.
Anything further? Everyone understands the resolution? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the consent agenda items 10.1 through 10.5. Anybody want to have a vote on any one of these issues independently of the consent agenda? The Vice Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to make a comment on,
Okay, that's fine. So nobody wishes to withdraw any one of these for an independent vote. If not, then we will take questions or comments on any of the items, and the Vice Deputy Mayor.
it was about the minor soccer delegation last week. I just want to thank you, Frank, the Parks Manager, for coming back so quickly with this report. And I commended minor soccer officials when they were here with their presentation. I'll commend them again. Raising $500,000 for Hillowell Fields is really something to write home about. $500,000 is a lot of money. But I just wanted to say, Frank, that it's nice to have two lit fields now for soccer. It's long overdue. The only thing I wanted to say or ask you, Frank, is that will there be a memorandum of understanding or letter of agreement? There's been a couple of projects gone sideways the last 10, 15 years where the intentions are good. But once the project's developed and done, the fundraising tends to stop, you know? And I know Mayor Charbonneau, I've had this conversation with a couple of projects that's happened. And so I see they're coming in with 104,000 right in the beginning, which is wonderful, and another $246,000 for the lights, and then another 150,000 on top of that for 500,000. So, Frank, I'm confident. I'm really confident they'll raise the money, but will there be a memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement just to put in writing so that they'd be good for that money?
Yes, we've been discussed that with them before, after the delegation, and they're willing to sign an agreement to spell that out. Yes.
I think that's positive. And minor soccer is, I mean, they're going to probably not far away from hitting 1,000 kids in their organization, and they're not going anywhere. That's a strong organization, and some good people at the top that are going to be good fundraisers. And I know they've already approached people, but I just want to make sure it was a little bit airtight for the future. We get that money. So 500 is a lot of money. So, thank you,
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to talk to 10.2 about the Lawn Bowling Club agreement, lease agreement. I've got one question and then just some comments. So, Frank, your report talks about says that over the years, the club was successful in major renovations, including enhanced accessibility, a new kitchen, etc. Were those paid for by the club or the town?
My understanding is they have a history of working in partnership with the town, that the funding was, and the costs were split.
I'm sorry, that funding was what?
The cost of those capital repairs were shared between the town and the club.
Yep, Councillor Grace.
Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about the club, and I'm so happy to see this 10-year lease agreement. It's just a wonderful group of people, and I really appreciate the cooperation between the town and the club. I also appreciate the club's flexibility this past year in supporting the heritage designation of the club. They work closely with the Heritage Committee on that. And I'm also so impressed with the way the club's vision and how they have worked so hard to promote the club, to bring in new members, to engage members of the public. And so thank you for all your work with this fine organization.
So I have Councillor Davinsky and then the Deputy Mayor, and then I'll come back around to the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The one I wanted to refer to, I've always referred to every time it came up, was the building permit numbers 10.3. And I wonder if Josh could give us a report on this. I find this very positive, and I hope the town is going to be putting out a news release on this, as I always ask every time this comes up.
Do you have any comments to it, the Chief Building Official?
I can say we are happy with the $144 million in construction value. I look back in 2019 when we were happy that we just passed 100 million. So they're nowhere near last year's record numbers, but they are very strong numbers. So,
Mr. Mayor, it's correct, but 144 million compared to other municipalities, I mean, it's like night and day. And I think we should be blowing our own horn on that, to let people know that the town is going ahead, it's building. And I checked the actual results and it was mostly for housing as opposed to anything else. And that's a good thing. So thank you very much for the work on that. And in order to get to that, we have to have a building department that sets it up for us so we can have these figures. Thank you. And it's a good news story.
Thank you. The deputy mayor.
Thank you. Just a comment and two questions. Perhaps the vice deputy mayor might remember, did the Longbourn Club get a $1 trillion grant?
Set board. It seems to me that there was some renovations inside that Trillium helped out with that. I'll direct a question to the vice deputy mayor. If he remembers that.
The vice deputy mayor.
And I believe that to be true. I said, I served on the Trillium Grant Review team, and I'm pretty certain that was the case. But that goes back 10 years ago.
My questions are, and sorry for jumping around, but it's the nature of the agenda item. In the communications, number 5 from the city of Peterborough is about the use of X. I do not use X myself. I see validity in their resolution, but I don't know how much the town makes use of X, formerly Twitter. So I wanted to ask that question.
The CAO.
Sorry, apologies. I don't know the answer to that.
The town is on X. The town is on X. We have an X.
Oh.
We have a presence on X.
Okay, I don't, so, because their resolution, I think, has some merit, so maybe at another meeting, we can get a little comment perhaps about, the town's, use of X. Number 6 on that communications list from Prince Edward Lennox and Addington Social Services Committee, there's a resolution there, which is basically encouraging the province to up their game with funding related to Ontario Works and the Ontario Disability Support Program. I think that that's worthy of support from us because those dollar figures have not kept pace with reality and are definitely keeping quite a few people living in poverty. So I would move for us to support number 6, which is from Prince Edward Lennox and Addington.
So the deputy mayor moves the council support the correspondence from Prince Edward, Lennox and Addington Social Services Committee. Is there mover? Well, moved by the deputy mayor, second by the vice deputy mayor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, so back to the vice deputy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Josh again. Josh, we'll take a look at the $315 million back in 2023. I think it's important to keep in mind that in 2021 was 154, 2022 129, 2024 144, which is all pretty consistent. That 315, Josh, am I correct by saying that that was the Southampton Care Center and the new hotel in behind the Holiday Inn? Are those lumped in there in that 315?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, Southampton Care Center did start in that year, was permitted in that year. We also had some large apartment complex, so there was a lot of large commercial development.
Okay, it's worth commenting too, while we're on the subject of the building stats, that when you look at multifamily residential in those 2 years, 692 multifamily residential units created in those 2 years alone. In the election year, 2022, according to CMHC, the town of Saugeen Shores had just around 600 multi-residential units. But that's the number that had been built throughout the entire history of the municipality to that date. And and since 2022 and 2023 and 2024, we more than doubled the number of multi-residential units in the municipality. And because of the municipal housing subsidy, which is now subsidizing over 40 of those units, we've now, of those 681, 40 of them are affordable housing. Plus the ARUs and all those things. But I mean, if you want to talk affordable housing, they're getting a $500 a month subsidy for those as some people within those, likely in those 600 units, or the 600 we had before, the 1,200 units total in town, 40 of them are affordable. So when we talk about creating affordable housing, we've actually created it. And built a fair bit of the kind of housing we need. So it's quite a success story, I think. And very few other municipalities in Ontario who can compare to those stats. Name me another one that's doubled the number of multi-residential units that it's had, built the same number that it had before 2022. Again, that's a pretty unique stat. Anyway, thanks for that report and all of these reports. If there's nothing further on anything in the consent agenda, there is a resolution that items 10.1 through 10.5 be approved and received for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Stack. All in favor? It's carried. All right, so now we'll move on to, excuse me, to bylaws. And there are 4 bylaws there for consideration. Anybody want to consider one of those independently? I don't see any requests for that. So there is a resolution that bylaws, and should point out, bylaw 44-2025, which is relating to the amending of the fees and charges bylaw for lottery license fees, that will be considered as amended. So the resolution is that bylaws 42-2025, 43-2025, 44-2025 as amended, and 47-2025 are hereby read, passed, and sealed this 28th day of April, 2025. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? That's carried. Now, I've had a request that we should have a round of statements by members this evening. So this will be where I choose to plunk that in, and we'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
Did we know about this?
I asked.
Well, but mine was related to the day of mourning. Anyway, because a lot's happened to all of us since the last time we did this. So I'll just take advantage of my time. Last Friday, on behalf of the mayor and on behalf of our whole community, actually, I attended a event in Chesley, and it was for the day of mourning. And it was a very powerful gathering of people involved in the labor movement. And I would encourage next year, if anybody else is able to go, because they're planning to do it again, that it's well worth attending. It's very emotional. I also would encourage that if we can send a couple of staff people. There were a number of labor people or laborers there from mostly Erin Eldersley, but there was the mayor of Georgian Bluffs was there, the mayor of Erin Eldersley was there, and the deputy mayor of Erin Eldersley and the mayor of South Bruce was there as well. Our mayor was at a different meeting, but I got the notes that one of the people read, and I'll just take advantage of my time to say in December 1990, that's when this day became a national observance in Canada with the passing of the Workers' Mourning Day Act. So April the 28th, 1991 was officially the National Day observed in Canada. That was the first one. And it's a day when people who memory is given to people who've been killed or injured in the workplace. And I think that it's a good message for us to remember. I know that the flags were lowered to half-mast here, but we have a lot of people who every day that they go to work, they have potential to not get home safely. So that's what this day is all about too. So I will also say that from the last time we've done this, I have gone to a couple of ribbon cuttings. Councillor Halpin, I'm not stealing your thunder here. We were at one on Thursday for Goodwill. Great store. If you haven't been in it, it certainly looked very clean and bright before it opened. I'm not too sure how askew it might have been by the end of the first day, but certainly there were a lot of people excited about that particular location opening, and it is the first one sort of up in our area, so that was very pleasant. I also want to appreciate that the mayor was able to recognize a girls hockey team, the under-8 Saugeen Storm team that won a provincial championship. They were all here in the chambers just before our meeting, and those little girls made a lot of noise, and I'm very proud of all of them. And I want to thank the mayor for taking the time to give them all a certificate. Thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor,
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I'd like to give a shout out to the group that was kind of started by Bob and Michelle Hunter and Rose Payette. And they're involved in picking mustard garlic. And that's an invasive species that's come into Saugeen shores in a big way. I was hoping to have a picture that I could show you, but you can look on the internet and find out what it looks like. It's an invasive species that is really coming along strongly. And this is just a shout out to watch on Facebook for groups that are going out to volunteer to pick. The first group is going out this Saturday. That's what it looks like. And if you see it in your backyard, pull it out. Pull it out by the root. You're supposed to put it in a black garbage bag so it'll kind of cook in the sun or rot for a little bit. And then put it in your garbage, not in the compost. Because if we put it in compost, those seeds could end up all over the place. There's a lot of people going out and they're pulling this on our parkland and on our trails, and people are getting involved in the rail trail for doing it. So just a real shout out to those people doing it, and encourage to everyone out there, if you see this in your yard or in the alley behind your house, please pull it out, put it in a garbage bag and throw it in the dump. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stack.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly remind everybody, or encourage everyone to go out to Goderich and the Port Elgin businesses in the BIA. There's been lots of discussion about the road construction, and I think worth noting to everyone that the road for cars is closed, but does remain open for pedestrians. I had the self-driven misfortune to run on the road on Friday, and it was still open. To my chagrin, it would have been nice if it was closed so I could walk, but everyone should be reminded to use the businesses. They're all open, trying to sell. So if you're out and about this weekend, please try and stop in on the BIA businesses. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to remind everyone, you've got an hour and a half from now to vote. Please get out and vote if you haven't. We've had some big lineups during the day around lunchtime and so on, but there's plenty of room for you to go to your poll and make your choice. Please do so. It's very, very important. And then congratulations to the Minto 81s of the Senior AA Hockey League. They went on to the Allen Cup that was played in the Hamilton Dundas area this past week, and they got to the semifinals and lost in the semifinals. That's not bad for a first-time team being in the Allen Cup championship. Allen Cup is senior hockey as opposed to the AA hockey, so it's a level above. And we thank the Minto 81s, and that's all the thanks they're going to get from me. And because next season, the Winterhawks are going to do it all.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I guess I'd like to thank first all the people and groups who participated in the Earth Day activities, cleanups throughout the town, and to our staff for supporting that with the organization and provision of materials to all those group organizers. And I also would like to thank everyone in our community who has been working as a poll worker and election worker throughout this election campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing personal, but I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the roads manager, Pete Necto, on his coming retirement. I believe this is the last council meeting where he's still employed by the town. And Pete's, if you've been around this town for any time, you've had interactions with Pete. There's not many roads or sewers or pipes or infrastructure bits that Pete doesn't know about. He's been a great help. He's always been very responsive. I think his years of service is closer to 40 than it is to 30, more than 40. So he's been around a long time, probably longer than most would stay, probably longer than anybody in the town. So Pete, if you're listening, congratulations from council and many years of happy retirement. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. So nothing from me. And we'll move on then to the confirmatory bylaw, and I have a resolution that bylaw 48-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read, passed, and sealed this 28th day of April, 2025. So mover and seconder, moved by Stack, seconded by Halpin. All in favor? That's carried. And finally, I have a resolution that this regular council meeting of April 28, 2025 hereby adjourns at 7:54 PM. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by the deputy mayor. All in favor? Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.